That's where we found Martha at the beginning of this message. She was in a place where she didn't have the faith to just come and sit at the feet of Jesus. It still depended on her. This was her house. She needed to make preparations for all the guests, Jesus and his entourage, everyone who had arrived with Jesus. And if you're sort of a little bit like me, maybe you read the story and you're like, well, it makes sense. Who else is going to do it? Who else is going to cook the kebabs and the rice for everyone that has come to Martha's house that day? It's Martha's job. When I was reading this passage of scripture a couple of months ago, I was sort of reading it. I'm like, yeah, God, like, I don't really understand what the problem was here. Like, someone's got to be making the food. Like, surely that's okay. Martha always hangs out with Jesus anyway. So today, it's fine if she's over there. And maybe Mary can help her for half an hour and then go back looking at Jesus and waiting on him and staying in his presence. But it was at that moment as I'm reading and I'm just meditating on the scripture and spending time with the Lord that God just stopped me in that moment. He just said, Layla, have you ever considered that I'm in the catering business? Have you ever considered that just one chapter earlier, I fed 5,000 people with 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread? Have you ever considered that I was inviting Martha into a new way of living, a new way of operating, where she could operate from a place of rest, where if she had just prioritized the presence of Jesus, a great miracle could have taken place in her house that day. If she had prioritized the presence of Jesus, if she had just sat at his feet, who knows what Jesus would have done to look after all of the people who came over to her house that day. Do you know what, church? I believe that God is calling the church globally to come back to a place where we remember the one thing, that we remember the one most important thing, that we need to prioritize the presence of God. And when we prioritize the presence of Jesus, I believe that we are going to see the miraculous begin to flow in our churches, in our nations. I believe that we're going to see God move in a mighty way